Hi guys, it's LeJanaro back with another video. Today I am doing a DIY book sleeve. It's a really cute book sleeve and it is reversible. I would like to say welcome to all of my new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and everyone who keeps coming back each time I post a new video. So let's get into making this book sleeve. All right, so let's talk about everything you're going to need to make this sleeve. So you're going to need the book that you're going to make the sleeve for. All right, you're going to need a ruler. You're going to need some pattern paper. This is some of that table paper that they use in doctor's offices. I got it off of Amazon. I will link it below. You're going to need a pencil. I'm using a Sharpie just so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to need some scissors, one for paper, one for fabric. Don't mix your two. You're going to need some fabric. These are just 2 fat quarters that I got from Walmart, right? And it's going to be reversible. So I would say if you want to make it reversible, even if you don't want to make it reversible, and you use 2 fabrics, I would say just do a 1/2 inch for both, just so you'll have enough room just in case you mess up. Right, I got some fusible fleece and some SF 101. I would say about a 1/2 inch of both. Again, just if you mess up, you'll have a little wiggle room. Some pins. If you are using a faux leather cork, you want to use some binder clips. But since I'm using cotton cloth, I'm just going to use some pins and your coordinating thread and your sewing machine. I think that's all you're going to need. All right, so the book that I'm using is one of my blank line journals that I have on Amazon KDP, and I love it because it says swag, and I like her little flower afro. And on the inside is just some blank lines. All right, so the first thing I want to do, I want to take the measurements of my book, and my book measures 6 inches wide by 9 inches long. All right, so those are my original starting measurements. Of course, we need to add seam allowance, right? Because we're going to be sewing a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So for my length, which is 9, I'm going to add 1 inch because I want to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but I don't want my book right at the top of my sleeve. I want a little bit of wiggle room that I can reach in and pull it out. All right. So I am adding 1 inch to my length. So instead of my length being 9, my length will be 10. Now for my width, I need to do a little bit more adding because I need my seam allowance for both sides. And I also need a little wiggle room because you don't want your sleeve to be too tight. You also don't want it to be too loose. Again, my book is really thin, so I'm thinking if I add 1 inch to both sides of my width, that should be pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add 2 inches to my width. So my width was 6, so now my width is going to be 8. That'll be a 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides, and then I'll have a 1/2 inch of wiggle room. All right. Let's see. Yep, I think that's it. So my template is going to be 8 by 10. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out this template, and I said my measurements are going to be 8 by 10. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that out. Alright, so I got my template cut out. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to grab my fabric, and instead of cutting 2 of each one of these, I'm just going to cut 1 on the fold. Alright, so this is my fat quarter. I'm just going to fold it in half. It was already folded. I'm just going to fold it in half. And I'm going to just cut 1 on the fold, right? And just make sure that, you know, your fabric is long enough or wide enough for you to be able to cut it on the fold. And I put the fold on the shorter, on the 8-inch edge, not the 10-inch edge, okay? So on the width, basically. I put the fold on the width. So I'm going to cut this one on the fold, and I'm going to cut the other fabric on the fold. You can cut 2 pieces for each one if you want to, but I just think it'll be quicker for me to just cut it on the fold. One less seam I have to sew. If I cut 2 pieces, I would have had to sew down the sides and across the bottom. Now I just have to sew down the sides. Just going to take my other piece, fold it in half. These pattern weights, I didn't say that in the beginning, they're helpful to hold your pattern piece in place, but you can definitely use some pins. I am going to cut the fusible fleece and the SF101 the same way. Just going to cut 1 piece on the fold. Now, I'm only going to cut 1 piece of fusible fleece and 1 piece of SF101, because I'm only going to put fusible fleece on 1 of these pieces and SF101 on the other piece. Alright, I don't want to make it too thick. Alright, so this might be a little off because my fleece is a little bit shorter than my pattern piece, but that's fine. No biggie. And I'm going to cut the SF101 the same way. And then I'm going to take this to the ironing board. I'm going to press out my piece because it's wrinkled. But then I'm going to place my fusible fleece. This is the bumpy side. This is the smooth side. The bumpy side goes face down on the wrong side of your fabric. Alright. So I'm going to place my fusible fleece down. Bumpy side facing the wrong side of my fabric. And I'm going to press it in place, cut my SF101 and do the same thing. The bumpy side goes on the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so I have the fusible fleece on one side, I have the SF101 on the other. So what I'm going to do now, take each piece separately, fold it in half, And I'm going to pin down the sides. I'm going to do that for both pieces. So I'm going to take both of these to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew down both sides. Alright, so now I'm just going to trim down my seam allowance to about 1/4 of an inch. Might be closer to 1/8 of an inch. Alright, so now I'm just going to take one of my pieces and I'm going to turn it to the right side. Just one of them. Make sure you poke out your corners. Right, so I'm just going to take this one that I turned to the right side. I'm going to place it on the inside of the other one. Alright. Just going to match up my seams here. They should be right sides facing. I'm going to match up my seams. And I'm going to pin, but I'm going to leave an opening. Right, so do these seams first, these side seams. Right, and you decide where you want to leave your opening. I'm just going to put one pin here and another pin about here, and this will be my opening that I'll leave, and then I'm going to pin around the rest of it. And once I get finished pinning, I'm going to sew around, making sure I leave my opening in the top. Right, so I'm going to start at that pin, sew all the way around, and stop at that pin, or the opposite, either way. I'm going to start and stop at my pins where I left my opening, and I'm sewing a 1/2 inch. Coming around to my pin, I'll back stitch a little bit. Now I'm going to use that opening to turn this to the right side. Just going to use this opening, turn this to the right side. And make sure you leave a big enough opening. Sometimes I don't do that. So I always have to fight when I'm turning. And make sure you back stitch at the beginning and at the end. That way if you're having to maneuver and fight like I am, you're not pulling your stitches open. Probably gonna speed this up. I might not. Oh, I don't have to. Okay. Yeah. I say that, but oh. So yes, let this be a lesson. Make sure you leave a big enough opening. All right. All right, so that's one side. Now let's get this other side. And I'm just gonna stick my hand through this opening and poke out the corners. Alright, so now I'm just going to I'm taking the green. This is the side that I put the SF101 on. It's going to be reversible anyway, so it doesn't matter, but I'm just tucking it in. And if you are using a cotton cloth, take this to the ironing board and give it a good press. Right, so I'm just pulling because you want everything to line up nice and neat. Right, here's that seam allowance. Just tuck that seam allowance in. Take it to the ironing board, give it a good press. Right. Make sure this is nice and even. Again, ironing will help, but for the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to stop and iron this. Now I'm just going to top stitch around, making sure that I sew up this opening that I left in the top. You can take it to the ironing board, give it a good press, and let's see if our book fits. Alright, so moment of truth. Here's my book. Just going to place it on the inside, and it slides in so easily, right? So this is actually perfect with the measurements that I used, and I will put the measurements in the description box below. So if you are using a thicker book, you just have to play with your seam allowance on your width. So you will still measure your book. You still measure your book and go by your measurements of your book, but you just have to play with the seam allowances of your width, because this book here is about 1/2 inch thick here, but it won't fit in here. All right, so with this one, with this book being about 1/4 inch here, I added 1 inch on both sides. So with this one, you may want to add 1.5 inches on both sides. You just have to play with your width if you're using a thicker book than me. Again, this book here is about 1/4 inch, and this is perfect. So, and I added 1 inch on both sides on the width. So like I said, if you had a book that's 1/2 inch, you may want to add 1.5 inches on both sides, and then that may work out for you. So just play with your measurements. Like I said, your length won't change. All right, once you do your length and you add your seam allowance to your width, your length won't change. Once you get your length and you add your seam allowance to your length will stay the same, because the length of your book won't change, but the width will change depending on the thickness of your book. So just play with your measurements. And then this is reversible, so I can turn it to the other side. And I can use this other side. All right. All right, guys, so that is it. We have our little book sleeve here. my book fits perfectly. Right, and it's reversible. So this is a quick and easy make if you wanted to make this and give it as a gift. If you know someone that reads, you buy them a book, make this up for them, and put it in this little sleeve here. You can use a variety of fabrics. This is a cotton cloth. Like I said, it's fat quarters that I got from Walmart. It's also reversible, so you can use cute fabric on both sides. And like I was saying in the video, the measurements, you just have to play with your measurements depending on the thickness of your book. This is 1/4 of an inch thick, so me adding an inch to the width on both sides was absolutely perfect. And I know I said this earlier, but this book is about 1/2 an inch, so I would say probably adding 1.5 inches to the width would probably be perfect for that book. So, quick and easy project, quick and easy gift for you guys to make. I will put the measurements that I used in the description box below, and I don't know if I don't think I have to link anything. The stuff from Amazon, I'll link the stuff from Amazon, the pattern paper. Oh, and my book, my blank line notebook. I have a variety of blank line notebooks on my Amazon KDP, different covers and different things like that. Got some really fun colors, different designs, things like that. Shameless plug. So, question of the day. Have you ever assembled furniture by yourself? Yes. I can't remember the first thing I assembled by myself. I want to say it was my kitchen table. Let me rub my back. It's a habit. My kitchen table that I got years ago. I got it from Walmart and they delivered it. And I had to put it together, which was pretty easy. I had to add the legs and then I had to put the chairs together, and it's lasted me a good little while. Some of the chairs are kind of loose, so I probably need to tighten up the screws, but I've had this kitchen table, I know, for about 10 years now, and it's still in good condition. I've been trying to either donate it to Goodwill or give it away, but I'm holding on to it. Sentimental value because I put it together. A lot of the shelves that I have the cubes on, that's in my what is the name of the video? I think my sewing room tour. The cubes that I have the fabric in and the ones that have the little bins in them, I put those together. I just recently got a futon for my office. I just put that together. That was super easy. I just had to add the legs to it. That was super duper easy. Oh, my pattern drawer thingy that I got from IKEA, I put that together. That gave me the blues. Actually, putting it together didn't give me the blues. Putting the drawers in after I got it together gave me the blues. But I think I did Insta stories on that when I was putting that together. But I have a dresser drawer that I got from IKEA. I think it has six thingies. I think. But I think I actually gave that away. I put that together. So yeah, bookshelves. I put together a lot more furniture than I thought. But let me know in the comments, have you ever assembled any furniture yourself? And if you have, what was it? I just recently watched a TikTok and a lady put together a sofa, and it wasn't something that she got from IKEA or anything like that. She literally bought the wood and put everything together herself. It was amazing. All right. So if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe and also hit the notification bell so you'll be notified each time I post a new video. And I will see you in the next one.